A weight distribution hitch is critical. Without it, it is going to squat the truck. It's going to raise the front end of the truck in a lot of cases, which is going to limit your steering capabilities. In the cargo trailer world, weight distribution hitches are underutilized. I think that's something you need to look at. You remember that thing that happened in 2020? You know, right? You know, well, since then, the travel trailer and camping industry and market has exploded. There are camper trailers all up and down the highways. If you tried to book a camping spot in the last 5 or 6 years, it's pretty tough to get in, no matter what part of the country you're going to. We also see cargo trailers that's been converted over into campers. So there's lots of stuff towing. And when you go up and down the highways, some of the setups you see are scary, from underrated vehicles to oversized units. Mainly talking about the bumper pull industry. Sometimes it's a little bit sketchy, and that's what we want to try to help with that today. We're going to talk about weight distribution, how important it is, and it's not just for campers, it's for several other units too that we're going to cover. So let's see if we can learn something today. Let's jump right into it. So before you get ready to tow your camper trailer or that high profile cargo trailer, or maybe even a bumper pull horse trailer, you need to know the size of the unit. So you need to know the length. It's important to know the height, the width, and the weight. This here is about 31 foot tip to tail, not just cargo space. That's from the front of the bumper to the back, or front of the hitch to the back bumper. And you need to know the weight. Empty weight is important, but you really need to know the weight with all your crap in it or your cargo in it. Whatever you're carrying, you need to know what that number is. Is that 7,000? Is it 8,000? This one here loaded is going to be a little over 8,000 ready to go. I like to pack light, so with the empty weight of this unit, and on cargo trailers and on campers, most of the times it will either show the empty weight on the VIN, on a data tag somewhere, or on the title work, so you can know that. But as far as your cargo, you may need to go get that weighed, or you may have to estimate it to know exactly what you're pulling. Another factor that comes into play is just the overall size. It's the height. You can imagine if you get into a windy situation where you're taking on crosswind or something like that, that's where you're going to get into an issue with swaying. Hard to control. So if you're pulling with a small vehicle, it could get sketchy. I mean, you can go on the interwebs and you can see all the wrecks and stuff. Kind of what prompted this for me, we just come back from a trip up and around the Ozarks. We've seen a bunch of campers. And just some of the setups, I'm like, man, I got to get around this dude before. I don't want to see this on the 5 o'clock news. I'll put it that way. So I thought about, well, let's just talk about it a little bit. But it's not just for campers. Like I said, we're going to cover that. So the weight on this is, like I said, about 8,000 pounds. But the other thing you need to know is the tongue weight. So if you don't have the tongue weight in the information anywhere in your, in your buyer's packet or anything like that, and sometimes they do provide that, you're going to have to measure that yourself. You will have to get you a tool. We will leave a link in the description below for one of those. I'm going to grab mine. We're going to check the tongue weight on this to see what it is. In order to determine tongue weight, you're going to need some type of scale. This is a e-trailer scale that I've had around, I don't know, for a long time. I actually had a customer of about 14 years just dropped this by the shop one day years ago. He and I have worked on some pretty unique projects together, and he was nice enough to give it to me. I use it quite a bit. I don't think you can get this exact model, but we will leave a link in the description below for some that are comparable. This one goes up to 2,000 pounds. They do make them in other weight ratings. And just make sure you follow the instructions on whatever unit that you decide to purchase to make sure that you're safe. So we're going to see how much tongue weight this has. How much do you think it has? 500, 600? Let's see. See if we can get the scale in there. Well, that's full tongue weight on there, and that's around, looks about 850 on tongue weight. So that is important just as a good number for you to know. But when you go to order or purchase your weight distribution hitch, or check the hitch out you've got to make sure that it's correct, that is critical, because you don't want one that's super heavy, because you won't have enough tongue weight, or if you have a hitch that's too light, you're going to have too much tongue weight. So this is important, the tongue weight and the total weight of the trailer before you purchase that hitch, or you need to know that to check your current hitch out to make sure you're set up correctly. So now that we know the weight of the trailer loaded and we know the tongue weight, we can select our hitch. We'll talk about that, and we'll show what that setup looks like. So here we have a B&W Tow and Stow, which is a great hitch. Don't get me wrong. I love it. Use it all the time. The question we get asked, well, can I just pull my camper with this? Yeah, you could pull it. Now, this is a 2014 GMC 5.3 liter with the automatic. So if you have that truck set up, It's questionable whether you're gonna be able to tow it or not if you still have the factory transmission in there, but luckily I've put an aftermarket transmission in here, so it would tow it. Now with this hitch, I'm not gonna have any anti-sway. I'm not gonna have any of that other than what maybe your tow vehicle is capable of. Some of the new tow vehicles, they have trailer tow anti-sway that uses the braking system. I'm not a fan of that. I like a weight distribution hitch with sway control, which is what we're gonna show here shortly. So I would not tow a high profile or a heavy bumper pull with this hitch setup unless I've added a spring or something like that to my truck, but you're not gonna get any anti-sway capability with this hitch. And when you're using when you're towing something that's high profile, super important, because if it gets to whipping, you may be in the bar ditch. When that thing decides to do a barrel roll going down the interstate, it's all over at that point. There's usually no recovery, and you could be injured and at the minimum tear up all of your property and somebody else's. My go-to hitch for bumper pull travel trailers and for bumper pull cargo trailers is the Equal-i-zer hitch with built-in anti-sway. So it has sway control built in. I just like this hitch. It is very simple to use. It's pretty simple to install. But before you get to this point where you've actually got the parts sitting on the ground ready to install, you need to go to eTrailer.com, the sponsor of today's video, to make sure that you get the correct hitch. We talked about the weight of the trailer. You need to know that so that you get one that's rated. This one here is rated for 10,000 pounds. This trailer is 8,000 max with everything loaded, so we're underneath that. You need to know the tongue weight to get the proper trunnion bar setup or whatever bar setup that you decide to go with. And if you decide to go with something other than Equal-i-zer, that's fine. There's a bunch of different options on there. What is critical is you make sure you do all your homework on eTrailer.com to get the right hitch. The other thing you need to know is your frame setup. So it's gonna give you some criteria as far as the height of the frame, maybe the depth of the frame, and it will give you some clearances from the center of the ball back to where the brackets are going to mount. That's very critical. You may have to adjust some components in here. You may have to move your tanks. Battery may be in a way, plumbing could be in a way, and wiring could be in a way. But if you'll spend just a little time on eTrailer.com, you can go look at this hitch, you can look at others. It will give you the breakdown of the criteria to meet the proper applications for your tow vehicle and the unit you're going to be towing with. So once you've determined the basics that you need to find your hitch, you went to eTrailer.com, we're on the website, we've clicked on the hitch page. Now we're looking to make sure we get the right weight rating, the right tongue rating. Then we're also going to look to see if it's going to meet our frame criteria like we showed, to make sure it's the right measurements for the bracket. We're going to look at all those points. Once you've determined, hey, this looks like this is the right hitch, I'm going to encourage you to scroll down and click on the install instructions. I believe this is very important. It's important for one reason, to make sure that you feel capable of doing it, or if you're going to need to take it in somewhere. Whether or not you feel capable of doing it or you're going to take it in somewhere, you need to look through the install instructions that shows you how the hitch properly works, what to look for to make sure, in case somebody else installs it, to make sure that it's set up correctly as far as the tow vehicle being level, you have the brackets in the right place, and just go through all of the instructions. It does have some math. I think it even has some algebra in there, but it's okay. It gives you a chart. It's not hard. You need to understand, and you need to go through all this. Spend a little time now and save yourself some time before you get to the install, because once you go through all this, you may decide, hey, I need a different Equal-i-zer setup for my needs. So just spend a little time on eTrailer.com. Lots of information on there before you actually pull the trigger and make the purchase. So we'll open it up and get all of our goodies out. Do not throw these away. This is the head setup. It's got 2 5/16 ball. It's going to have quite a bit of hardware, but don't let that freak you out. I promise you, on the Equal-i-zer, it's a pretty simple setup once you do your initial. So you have your head, you have your weight distribution bars, you have your shank, and this is important to make sure that you get to the correct shank for the tow vehicle. These are going to be your brackets that attach to the frame. This is going to be your lifting device for the bars, and this is your install hardware. So again, on this shank, that's why you have to go and look at the install instructions, look at the specs to make sure it's the correct drop, make sure it's the correct shank size, just so you get the right one, or when you get your parts in, you're not gonna be able to assemble it. So to spend a little time now, it's gonna save you a lot of time down the road. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna set the hitch on it. I'm not gonna go through the super in-depth install. The reason I'm not going to do that is I want you to look at the install instructions yourself to see what it takes. I'm gonna hit some of the high points, and if you get your hitch, you need to follow the instructions in the either digitally or the instructions that come with it to make sure that you get it dialed in just like you need it, so you get the optimum amount of weight distribution and the optimum amount of anti-sway. And at this point, it will tell you in the instructions, you're likely not going to get it perfect on the first try. It's going to give you some parameters to meet as far as leveling up your unit you're towing. You can adjust the angle of the head with these washers or shims. So don't think you're going to get it right the first time. You're not supposed to. You're getting it set up, and this is where you're going to get it dialed in. You're going to take some measurements off the pickup. What we're going to show is I just have it hand tight now. Now once you're done, it does give specific torque specs. So that's something else you need to keep in mind. Do you have the proper tools to do this? This takes an 1/8" socket. You're going to need a 1/2 inch torque wrench. So you're going to need some bigger tools if you don't have those. So if you're just doing one hitch install, you need to understand that you may have to purchase some stuff. So we're going to back the truck up, and we're going to see how much it squats the truck without any of the weight distribution arms set in, and kind of show you the difference once we get it set up. So before we put it on there, we're going to take a couple measurements on the truck, and we're going to see just how much this trailer will squat this pickup. We're going to take just a couple measurements, and again, in the instructions, it's going to give you very specific instructions. So we're about 38.5 on that, and about 35.25 on that one. So now we're going to put the weight of the trailer on the truck, and let's just see if she squats. So we're at 36.5, and we're at 36 on the front. So it did squat it. So if you're looking for that squatted look, this would be one way to do it, but I don't recommend it. So here is where a weight distribution hitch is critical. Without it, it is going to squat the truck. It's going to raise the front end of the truck in a lot of cases, which is going to limit your steering capabilities, some of your stopping capabilities. So it is very important that if you're hauling a travel trailer, cargo, any type of bumper pull, if it is squatting your truck, you need to look at a weight distribution hitch, unless you have some way to distribute the weight internally. On a cargo trailer and on a camper, that's just not going to be the case. In most cases, you're going to need some type of weight distribution. So we're going to install the bars on this. I'm not going to do all the fine measurements just for sake of time, but I'm going to show you what it will do with the bars installed on our initial measurement to see if we have made any improvement on that. And this is where it is important to make sure that you get your height right. Make sure you go through the instructions to make sure this will accommodate your frame. It is multi-position, so it will accommodate several different frame setups. And then also the measurement from the center of the ball back to here is very critical on there, and it will give you the measurements for that. But that's why you need to check that before you purchase to make sure that you don't have anything in the way. Just repeat the same thing on the other side. We're going to hand tighten everything up. We're going to check it out, but don't feel bad if you have to do this 3 or 4 times to get it dialed in exactly. That is normal. Once you do get it dialed in, then you can do a final torque on everything. So now we'll put the bars in place. And it's going to give you instructions on how to put the bar in the bracket. Right now, the way I have it, you can actually put them in by hand, but it does come with a tool that will help you pry that up there. Again, likely you will have to change this. You're going to have to tweak it. You're going to have to modify it. We're going to put it in just to show, just at our initial measurement, what we've got compared to where we started with. So we're at 36.5 there, 36 on the front end. We need to measure the trailer to see if we're level there, and this is where we utilize the instruction manual to go back and forth to get it really dialed in so your truck is not squatted, it's running level, you're not taking any weight off your front steering axle. So our initial install of the bracket was too low. We didn't get enough weight distribution on there, so we've moved that up. And like I said, this is where you have to dial it in. It may take you a couple of times. You may be a pro and you may hit it the first time. We're going to put our bars back in. We're going to take a secondary measurement and see where we're at. So we'll put all the weight of the camper on here, then we'll go measure the truck to see if we've gained anything. So after our last adjustment, we gained about 3/4 of an inch with the weight distribution. It looked pretty good. I went ahead and moved it up one more. I just want to see where it's at. So we're going to put all the weight back onto the truck and we'll take one more measurement. So right now we're about 37 inches. So we're getting very dialed in at this point, and you can get it pretty fine back and forth. Just go off of the chart. When you take all your measurements, that's where it's going to give you, you're shooting for a percentage in there. You're also wanting to look at the truck and the trailer. You can get so much weight distribution where it actually pulls the truck up in the back end. You don't want that. You don't want it to be squatted. You want it somewhere in the middle. And there is a chart on that as well. Once you get all that done, you will read in the manual, you need to check the angle of the head on here. There is some very fine adjustment with those washers like we showed. You may need to adjust the angle of the head to make sure that all your measurements and your proper weight distribution is there. And once you get everything dialed in, you need to check the torque on all of your stuff. This is where I'm going to show you the part that I really like about the Equal-i-zer 4-point sway control. The older school weight distribution hitches, you had to add a secondary sway control, which was a beam, and it works. Don't get me wrong, it does work. It's a beam that goes in that works off friction. You have to tighten it down, and going on the road, you're good. But when you pulled into RV park or somewhere where you needed to back up and make a turn, you had to get out, loosen that up to keep it from getting in a bind. You don't have to do nothing here. You can back into your RV spot. You can make turns. This will make some noise. It's gonna make some creaks and some groans because it is rubbing back and forth, but this is doing the work of the weight distribution. This is also doing the work of the anti-sway. It's integrated into one bar, one arm. Once you get it dialed in, it is very simple to use. You honestly just hook up if you're pulling with the same vehicle every time, and you're ready to go. Unless you pile a bunch of extra crap in the front end, you may need to do, you may need to make a change there. But for the most part, once you spend your time, follow the manufacturer's instructions. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's very simple to use, and it's just a great setup. That's why I like this setup. I've used it for years, and I'm going to continue to use it. I own one of these already. It works great in the RV world, but it also works great in the cargo trailer world, and that's where we see people that don't use it. If you have a higher profile cargo trailer, maybe 16 foot or bigger, we'll see people come in and pull it with a small SUV or something. It's just a little too much for that. It's squatting it down. It does catch some wind. So check your cargo trailer out. Let's look at the frame of the cargo trailer. If it's got an exposed frame like an RV, it's pretty simple. As long as you have enough ball to bracket clearance, you can install it. Now, if it does have something to where it has an enclosed top on here, you may have to modify that. You may have to make an access point. I've had to do that in the past in order to get that. A lot of the nicer cargo trailers will be plated up here in case you want to put a generator or something like that. So you may have to make an access point to install the bracket. But I feel like in the cargo trailer world, weight distribution hitches are underutilized. I think that's something you need to look at. If you're running a bigger cargo trailer, just go hook that up to your truck with whatever you carry on a daily basis to see how much it's squatting your truck. Pay attention when you're driving the road to see if you have, some walking around, if it's swaying around. This is an inexpensive way to just make your quality of tow much better, and honestly to make it very safe for you and for everybody else on the road. So make sure you're using your weight distribution hitch correctly if you already have one. If you have the old style that's got the chain binders and all that stuff, I would recommend upgrading to an Equal-i-zer 4-point sway control hitch. A lot easier to use. Just look at that and make sure, if maybe you do have this hitch already, make sure you're using it. Make sure you read the instructions, or if you had it installed somewhere, make sure they read the instructions. If you don't have those instructions, just go to eTrailer.com, click on the model hitch you have, and you can get all the stuff right there to make sure it's installed correctly. That's about it. We're ready to go to the RV spot. We're going to check our lug nuts so we don't lose that on the way, and we're weight distributed, and we're going to rip.